Yes. We're back with another episode. Today's going to be very special. I feel like I say that every time, but I've been knowing this young lady for a short period, but you've been very impactful in my professional career. You've given me advice and things of that nature. So I definitely want to give you a big shout out, give you your flowers today and now to Miss Tiana Watt Porter. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me here. I'm really excited, by the way. This is my third podcast interview that someone is having on their platform. And I'm like, wow, like the Black.
Maybe you should start yours.
Listen, I have some things in the works, got to make sure you stay calm, cool, and collected, but also making sure that I go with God with all things that I do. So it's definitely coming. I will say that.
Absolutely. I look forward to just tuning into that for sure, because I know you got some insight. And right before we started recording, you started to hit on to, like, basically, are you typecast as a technical recruiter? When people think of you, when you come across people, what do they think when it comes to you?
So the thing about the tech industry is, as great as it is to get in, because I personally believe that tech is one of the most gate-kept industries. It's not necessarily what you know, but who you know in order for you to be able to get in it. And it requires both. It requires you needing to know somebody majority of the time, and also you needing to have hit every qualification possible. So one thing about me that I experienced as a senior technical recruiter is that when other recruiters or with other companies, reach out to me, they always ask me, are you open to getting out of tech? But my thing is, like, I'm not industry specific. I'm open to making money. So whatever can make me money, I'm going to go for it. Not all money is good money, but, people assume that because you've been in tech for this amount of time, or because you've worked for these huge technical corporations, that you won't be able to pivot. And I know that there are some people that feel that, oh, well, I've put all my work and all my effort into being in tech, I'm not leaving. Well, just not too long ago, I was telling my transitioners, please be careful about you wanting to transition to tech when you have no technical background. And everybody and their mom last year wanted to be a recruiter because they swore up and down it was going to be the easiest way to break into tech. And then when the layoffs happened, who did they lay off first? So those are the warnings that I was giving out to people originally. Now, people didn't want to take my warnings because they felt like I was coming down on them and I wasn't being supportive, and you can do anything as long as you set your mind to it. However, I have been in this industry for over 8 years. It's almost a decade. I know how tech works. So when I say things, it's based off of experience that I've witnessed, that I've seen, and I don't want people to get hurt or view the tech industry negatively because of that previous experience. But I do want to make sure that when someone does get into the tech industry, that they meet majority of the requirements possible. That way, a company won't have any reason not to look at your application. But tech is extremely competitive. And one thing's for certain, two things for sure. I do believe that nowadays people they're underestimating their competition and overestimating their abilities. Literally in tech, you can find that perfect candidate. I know on LinkedIn, everybody wants you to believe that there's no such thing. However, when you work for these global tech corporations, the perfect candidate, there's a good 4 or 5 of them in your candidate pipeline who hits the preferred qualification, who meets all 100% of those qualifications. So that's the reason why I say the things that I say based off my LinkedIn platform, but also just pivoting back to your original question, some of the questions that I get when it comes down to the tech industry. I'm not all solely gung-ho on just tech in general, but as long as I can be a recruiter and be impactful, I am not industry specific.
I love that so much. You definitely obviously have transferable skills to any industry. But let's stay on tech for a second. What are some of the qualities that a person looking to maybe transition from creative or some other field into the technical recruiting space? What type of skills or certifications or education should they already have?
So one thing about recruiting is it's flexible. However, when it comes down to the tech, if you're going to, so let's break this question down, right? There's a difference between being a technical recruiter and then being a technical recruiter for a tech company. Mm-hmm. Those are two different things. You can quite literally be a technical recruiter within the banking industry, financial industry, and in, aviation, defense. They will have completely different requirements than you being a technical recruiter within the tech industry. Because more often than not, in the technical world, and if you are a technical recruiter, if you're going to vie for a technical recruiting role in a tech company, best believe your competition is going to be stiff. They're looking at the previous companies you worked for and what their impact was. So if you were one of those people that were fortunate enough to have Mang, Fang, whichever you prefer to call it, to have on your resume, and you were there at a permanent basis or a long time, you're automatically going to be deemed as one of the top 15 or 20%, depending on how big the candidate pipeline is. Because they're looking at people who have Twitter, Microsoft, Google, Netflix, Amazon on their resume. And if they don't, they're looking at the subsets of those companies, right? So companies that are maybe not necessarily on their level, but are really great tech companies as well, such as Cisco, such as the startup tech companies that we're seeing that are popping up left and right? So when it comes down to recruitment, the first thing that I tell people that in order for you to be a recruiter and a good one at that, it starts with you, your personality. Nobody wants a dry recruiter. Nobody, hey, how you doing?
Monotone.
Nobody wants that, because you're supposed to make someone feel excited about the opportunity that you're presenting to them. You want to make them, switch. And a good 50 to 60% of what recruiters do, we're reaching out to candidates who aren't even looking on the market. So you're going to have to be excited. And if you're not excited, then why would you think someone else would be excited about the opportunity that's being presented? So that's number one. Number two, as far as specifications, tech companies, if you're going after a technical corporation, they're looking for previous technical experience. How many years of technical recruiting have you done? If you're in that 1 to 2 year bracket, no disrespect, I hate to tell you, if the job requirement requires 4+ years, what they're really looking for is actually 5+ years. I hate to say it. That 4+ is just being nice. They're really looking at someone who meets more of the qualifications, exceeds the qualifications. Because how many times have we seen in a tech corporation, they post a job description and then the person they hire has over qualifications that didn't even, met the preferred qualifications and everything. So you're going to want to make sure that you're coming to the table with something. You need to have that experience. It's no way around it. Now, there are tech companies that have like DE&I initiatives that present people the opportunity of being in recruitment or maybe being in HR with minusing some of those corporations. We saw that last year. Amazon did it, Meta did it. But with this year and last year, people got laid off and got laid off in the thousands. So now that's becoming a thing of the past. Now we're back to square one. So what are we doing? So we have to go back to the table, meaning what do I have? What do I bring? If I am already a recruiter and I've already been in recruitment, what have I worked on? What impact have I made? How many roles, requisitions have I managed? Yada, yada, yada. HR certifications are good. For me personally, I don't have a degree. So I'm relying mainly on my 8 years plus of experience, also the companies that I have on my resume, not to mention the fact that I'm a LinkedIn creator and I'm going to outdo everybody that's in the pipeline when it comes down to an interview. I interview very well, but that's also because I never overestimate myself nor the competition that's in my pipeline, because people who I'm going up against have master's degrees, have business degrees. They came from Princeton and Harvard and Stanford, and they had Google and Netflix and Indeed on their resume. So I'm already behind the curve. So for someone to look at me, I have to stand out in other ways. So if you don't meet some of the qualifications, you're going to have to find out other ways to stand out. What is your LinkedIn presence doing? How are you driving diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives? What impact, what processes did you create at your last role or in your current role? You're going to have to put that on your resume. Half the time, people don't even get tech interviews because of the fact that their resume is lying on them. I look at their resume and they're wondering why they've never had an interview. Baby, your resume is trash. And it's not trash based off of the way it's formatted. It's trash because it's not telling me about you. Mm-hmm. And half the time, candidates don't have the proper resume skills in order to get them to that technical interview. So I'm saying all this to say, in the tech world, the perfect candidates exist. There's no such thing as a unicorn. I don't like that term. A unicorn is someone that comes dime a dozen. But in the tech world, you got to think about that the dime a dozens are in the technical space already. The tech world takes up less than 10% of the global workforce. Less than 10%, you guys. I want you to hear that. And so think about that really quickly. So people who are at Amazon, people are at Meta, people are at Maine, Google, Netflix, Indeed, blah, blah, blah. Those companies can afford to be picky because the salaries that come with their pickiness equates to their candidate. I hope that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So for HR certifications for myself, God willing, I'm going to be participating in this. And I do think that as recruiters, these are necessary. So I'm going to get a CDR, which is a Certified Diversity Recruiter certification, because I want people to understand that diversity, equity, and inclusion is just not something I throw on my resume to get an interview. It's something that I actually hold true to. Number two, the next thing that I'm going to get is a SHRM certification, but a SHRM SCP, which is the senior side of the SHRM certification, because I have over 8 years of experience, so I would qualify for that certification. And the last certification that I want to get is the SPHR certification. Now, all of these, because I'm not working for a company at this time, will be coming out of my pocket. But there are some companies that if they feel that you're the right candidate, will sponsor your certifications for you to receive. That way you can be able to make vertical movement within your company. So I hope that helps answer your question.
Absolutely. Slow clap. Slow clap. So I want to switch gears and take this time to acknowledge, you mentioned about social media, how LinkedIn, you've been going viral. I've watched from afar. I've engaged on some posts that you did. And one recently that I think it was yesterday or the day before yesterday, you made a comment or a post about job hopping and how we're in this climate of when a hiring manager is looking at, applications and job history, how they're kind of like turning their nose up at it. But from your perspective, what are you seeing from your personal experience and what you're seeing, like when you're interviewing candidates for a role, like how do you view, short-term contracts, 3 to 6 months type of situation? What are your thoughts on that?
So being that I have mainly been a contractor my majority of my recruitment history, I personally do feel that contractors get a bad rep for many reasons. Number one, especially in the tech industry, I've noticed a trend and a pattern that people say things like they're just a contractor. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if a person is a contractor or a full-time employee. It matters if they've been employed. For some reason, there is this false narrative going around that contractors don't make or drive impact. And if you are a contractor that doesn't speak to leadership opportunities, that's all not true. You don't know the reason of why a person took a contract. Contracts at one point in time, a decade ago, used to mean opportunity. That's how people were able to get into a company on a permanent basis. Back then, I'm saying 10 years ago because the contracting world has changed versus then to now. I'm going to make a comparison so stick with me, you guys. Back then, a contract was deemed as a good thing. It presented itself as an opportunity. Let's try this person out for 6 months because the contractor doesn't get paid benefits. They're only getting paid an hourly rate at this time, okay? And there's multiple different contractors, but let's focus on the W-2 contractor. I'm going to explain what a W-2 contractor is. That is when they are employed by the staffing agency directly, and then they get sent off to a client. So, for example, let's just say Microsoft paired with Insight Global, Apex Systems, and Randstad. And they said, find us 1,000 recruiters in these specific industries. Those companies are going to hire for that said requirement, and they're going to present an hourly rate, and then they're going to be able to contract for Microsoft. At that point, it will then determine how many months that they're able to stay on the assignment. For companies that are in FANG and MANG, they usually do 12 to 18. And then at that 12 to 18 month mark, if there's not an opportunity to go permanent, you do have to leave, because there have been multiple lawsuits regarding contractors staying for too long and not going permanent, or no vertical movement. So there's a break period. So people who contract with these very large corporations at that length of time do, and FANG specifically, they have to have a 6-month cool down period before they can go back. So if they don't have a permanent opportunity presented to them within their 12 or their 18 months, they have to leave within 6 months, right? They have to leave 6 months and then come back and start a whole nother contract. So let's just say that person does this contract, and during that time, something abruptly happens and they get laid off, right? Which happens a lot in tech, right? Budget cuts, layoffs, that happens a lot. Why? Because tech world, more than any other company, any other industry, tech and the banking / financial industry, they are very, very, very specific with their pockets. Very. You will see banking and tech do layoffs usually around the same time. And there's a reason for that, you guys. So follow me. If your contract abruptly ends, knowing you were supposed to have the tenure of 18, 12 months, it doesn't matter. Because that 12, 18 months that you were, quote unquote, promised, because at every staffing agency, if it's a good one, they're going to tell you possible 18 months, right? So the person that's taking the contract is looking at the 18, but what they should be looking at is the possible, because that's the subject, right? So if they got laid off or got let go within that 6 months, they then therefore have to explain themselves constantly in interviews why their contract lasted for 6 months or 3 months. But the average tenure for contracting per assignment is 6 months. It's more or less, it's more rare to see very long-term contracts. It's very common to see contracts that are 6 months or less, because of the fact that contracts are typically there for a specific need. It's to ramp up hiring practices, and then when the company gets stabilized, they no longer need said contractor, right? Why is that an issue? Because people take those opportunities to have an opportunity. A lot of contractors, and I do mean a lot of contractors, they want permanent employment. They don't want to continue to keep contracting because of what it does present. I'm also going to say something else. This may be controversial. Tenure gets brought up more so for minorities than it does for whites. You can look at that how you want to, but this is true. If a person, because this is what happens a lot. You will see minorities take contracting opportunities more so than whites. But that said, Black or Hispanic contractor may have years worth of experience more than said white counterpart that's at a permanent opportunity with less experience. That's also another reason why contracting bodes another discriminatory practice. Now, people don't look at it like that. Companies don't look at it like that. But when it comes down to your employment and when it comes down to you applying for permanent opportunities as a contractor, they automatically equate you with job hopper. And that is not the case. Contractors are able to not only ramp up your hiring practices, they're able to get in, they're able to move quickly without having to take much direction. They're able to create talent acquisition process, handles a lot of requisition workload, and they're able to get moving. But a lot of people who are permanent are not able to work under that. They need some things to have a slow ramp up time. They work on the 30, 60, 90 days. But in the contractors world, we don't have that. That 30, 60, 90 days that you would get in that time frame, we have to do it in a week. So when it comes down to me, and when I look at my assignments and when I look at a person, I look at their entirety of their experience. Because if a requisition requires 5+ years and a person started in a specific year and they've been in that industry since that said year, that is their over 5+ years of experience. That's what I'm looking at. And what I do is I push hiring managers to think outside of the box and to not solely equate permanency with a better candidate. Tenure does not equate to a better candidate. Permanency does not equate to a better candidate, and nor does full-time employment. The difference between a contractor and a permanent employee is one has benefits, one doesn't. One is getting paid a week or every 2 weeks. Another one is getting paid every month. One of them is getting paid, those are the things that is the main difference. But too often, more than not, contractors do more work than permanent employees, but we do it with less access and less resources.
Oh, that's
the reason why companies need to look at contractors way more seriously than they have been, and not just look at them as a means to an end. Plus, they need to make opportunities for them to be able to, when they apply to a permanent role within the company, not to just get their application thrown out, to actually be looked at as a worthy candidate. Because why am I good enough to be able to contract for your company but not work here permanent? Mm-hmm. So these are the things that I see. And as a recruiter and also someone who has been a contractor and a full-time employee, I've been able to grow and experience more life lessons and elevate my career within contracting more than I ever did at a full-time opportunity. But because of the fact that I have been a contractor, it's limited my abilities to be a full-time employee. I hope that makes sense. And that is annoying for me. Yeah, and that's annoying for me because I know what I bring to the table and I know what I can be able to do. And if I was a permanent employee and I never had been done contracting and I had 8 years of the same years of experience that I have, I would have been somebody's manager a long time ago.
Absolutely. And what I see just from your experience and you talking about the different assignments and projects and contract roles that you've had personally, I think that actually made you a better recruiter because you're able to adapt to systems quickly and different, practices within that ecosystem, if that makes sense. So I think Absolutely. If any employer is looking to hire new talent or, as in the recruiting or delivery, you'll definitely be an asset to a team. It's just a matter of you getting in front of the right person. Right. So let's switch gears. What are you seeing? Is this whole economic shift that we're experiencing right now is going to last for a long period of time? Are you seeing any trends that's going on? Like you said, you've been in the industry for 8+ years. What can we expect? Overall.
So I actually, on my platform, I usually drop gems that, gets thrown out. So last year, I told people that economists, major news articles, and Wall Street all stated that layoffs were going to be happening all the way up into 2023. That was going to be the projection. I don't think people heard me because people were shocked when companies started laying off the first of the year. I'm like, I don't know why you're shocked because it was projected. This is a perfect example of people not doing their research. Mm-hmm. They want to get into tech, but they never want to do the research in order to be able to survive in tech. And that's the problem, right? Mm-hmm. So I see too many times people tell me they want to break into tech. They want to break into tech. They don't want to break into tech. They can never quantify what they want to do. They have no idea what they would be good at doing. They don't know what their personality would be best suited for, nor did they do any research or any of the companies that they wanted to be at. All they're looking at is fame and being able to, I want to get there. But when I was at Microsoft in our trainings, we found out that it's harder to get into Google and Microsoft than it is to even get into Harvard.
Wow.
So when it comes down to these layoffs, there's a reason for that. The reason for that is because they overhired the business the year before, and even sometime the year before then. And now they have to compensate for it. I knew last year when they were, and the year before last, when they were hiring like crazy for recruiters, I knew that was going to be a problem. I knew that was going to be an issue because when you overextend your business by millions, the only thing companies equate to doing is, okay, we have to alleviate this money somehow. And what's the first thing to go? It's going to be people's salaries. Mm-hmm. That's how you eliminate, that's how you're going to be able to relieve financial pressure. Layoffs just don't happen for a reason. They're laying people off so they can get their money back.
Right.
There's a reason for that, right? So, but the problem with how companies are laying people off is that now the people that are in HR and TA that are at the current companies that didn't get laid off is now about to be overworked because they're still going to have the workload for that said company, even with people being gone. So at one point in time, recruiters were having maybe like 5 to 10 requisitions, that would be the workload. Now we're looking at people having 20 plus. And for people who have never worked in recruitment, that's a lot because they have different hiring managers. Each hiring manager has different things to be looked at. You have to because each requisition is technically a project of its own. You have to monitor the candidate pipeline. You have to move people. You have to be able to be communicative. I'm not a ghoster, so I never want to ghost any of my candidates. So think about having about a good 15 to 20 people times 20 requisitions.
Mm-hmm. That's a lot.
That's a lot to manage, to be able to provide that level of expectation, not to mention your talent acquisition team and your hiring managers.
Mm-hmm.
So, these layoffs are going to happen and they're going to continue to happen. This week alone, I think I saw 5 companies do layoffs. And so what people need to do is they need to prepare themselves. My best advice for people that are on the market right now is to, number one, understand that majority of us are all in the same boat. Number two, it is not bad to gatekeep. At this time, it is not bad to gatekeep. If you are interviewing for a company, you need to just interview for that company and not say nothing. Stop posting everything on LinkedIn. Well, I want to be a content creator. Okay, but do you want to be jobless forever? Those same people that you are telling about your interview with this said company is going to go to that company, apply for the same role you applied for. The same person that has more experience than you.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a time to be telling your best friend about what interviews you're having and who you're interested in. This is the time for you to technically gatekeep that information. Now, for me, I do it strategically. I'm really close with a lot of people in my space. So if I see that there was I'm going to use myself for an example. I had a plug in the government. I'm not going to say what it is because they're still probably hiring. I have a government plug. I helped her with her interview process while I was at Microsoft. She then therefore turned around and helped me and told me that in this specific space of the government, they're hiring over 7,000 HR members. I texted in a group chat about a good 10 people. And she was like, listen, I just want you to send me your resume because I'm moving it straight up to the hiring managers. If you have anybody else, let me know. I texted a specific group of people in a group chat. I was like, listen, this is the situation. If you want this opportunity, it is not contracted. This is full time. Send me your resume and I'm going to send it to my friend. That's exactly what I did. But why did I do that? Because it was over 7,000 people. I can afford to tell 10 folk. But I specifically told them, I shouldn't have to tell anybody this. Don't be posting this on LinkedIn. Neither one of them did. So boom, we did that and we kept it that. We haven't heard anything back, but we're hoping that we do. Because with 7,000 people, 10 of us can get a job. That's how I look at it. However, what I'm not about to do is tell the same people, even though I do care about them and I want them to be successful, that are in the same space as me. Some of them people have degrees. Some of them have HR certifications. Some of them are working. And some people are still greedy. Some people are like, I can take on another contract. And so they'll work 2 contracts. And that's taking off someone else's plate for an opportunity. So when it comes down to any role that I apply for, I'm going to make sure that at least I have the opportunity to apply for it first. And if I get a decline letter, then I'm telling them, hey, this company is hiring. And I don't even tell everybody. I just tell maybe a couple folks. So you're going to have to gatekeep. You're going to have to be strategic. You're going to have to, not tell everybody your business. That's what's going to be important. You're going to have to find ways to be able to get on different job boards and connect with certain people. Because once again, tech is about who you know. So these are the best advice that I can be able to give to people, and really look at your resume. And once again, I can't stress this enough because this is the main thing that I'm seeing on LinkedIn, and I am, getting fed up about it. People are really, really upset at the fact that they don't have a job at this time. But thousands of us don't have a job at this time. So a good chunk of you guys are going to have to take pay cuts. Yep. Last year, I took 2 pay cuts in order to stay employed because I thought about the bigger picture. Do I need to take pay cuts? No, not at all. But do I need my bills to be paid? Absolutely. So you're going to have to take pay cuts. Now, don't take a pay cut that's not equivalent to your bills, though. But right. You are going to have if it pays more than unemployment, you need to take that opportunity if you get it. So what if it's not 6 figures? What are your bills looking like? Equate it to how much you spend in a month for your bills. Can it pay all of those? Mm-hmm. And think about your salary range compared to your experience. If you have 2 years worth of recruitment experience, you should not be trying to look at 6-figure opportunities. I hate to tell you guys that, but you are going to have to look at it comparatively to your experience and what you provide. If you have HR certifications, a degree, and solid years of experience, you can afford to take more and be a little bit more selective. However, the same people that have more experience than you, that worked at better companies than you, are now on that same market and are in the pipeline that you're in. So you need to think about that. Find ways where you can be able to do research on your company. That way you think outside of the box with the questions that it's asking you. Instead of being frustrated, do your research, read, connect with people, pray, breathe. Those are the things that are going to help you for that next opportunity to get in the company that you want. And and a good majority of us are going to have to accept something for right now until the market gets better.
Wow, this is like this is one of my favorite episodes. I feel like there's a part 2, part 3 coming up because I feel like there's so much more knowledge and experience and just like, quality, actionable steps that you can give the audience. So I'm definitely looking forward to us doing this again if you have the availability.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just want to end it and land the plane. What would you give the person in this climate right now? What type of advice would you give them in this job market?
The same advice that I'm using, go with God.
There you go. Boom.
Go with God. At the end of the day, your faith is a determination of things unseen. Absolutely. So at the end of the day, regardless of what the market is, it has nothing to do with what the spiritual realm is doing. At the end of the day, the spiritual realm is more real than what's in this present physical. And what happens in the physical is a direct reaction of what happens in the spiritual. God has already seen you and provided for that next opportunity you have. Just because you haven't received it yet, that doesn't mean you don't have it. So You need to make sure that you're understanding at the end of the day, your faith is going to bring you through. I'm saying this because I'm a follower of Christ. I don't believe in universalism. And even though I give everyone decency and respect for their beliefs, I believe in Christ. And my faith is going to bring me it's going to bring me out of my current circumstance. So that is what I have faith in. I don't have faith in man. I don't have faith in companies, and I don't have faith in people, but I do have faith in the Holy Spirit, and that the Holy Spirit will lead me, and that God has already placed his hand in my life. And as long as that has been done, he will provide the rest.
Wow. As they say in other podcasts, those are some gems that you're definitely putting down. Again, thank you for coming on to the show. Where can people find you on social media?
Absolutely. So my LinkedIn is Tiana Watts Porter, but it is Tiana Bomb Recruiter Watts Porter. So please connect with me, follow me. I do post every now and then because I am intentional. I'm not one of those people that post on an everyday basis because at the end of the day, I need to find my next opportunity. So I'm strategic. So please follow me on LinkedIn, and I hope to be able to connect with some of you. Jay, thank you so much for having me. It was a blessing to be able to be here and to interact with your audience. It was wonderful.
Wow. Great episode. I'm looking forward to doing this again. There you have it. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, comment below, and tell Tiana what you guys thought about the episode. If this was helpful, I'm pretty sure it was. I learned so much from it, and I'm pretty sure you guys will too. Until next time, peace.
Thank you.